Welcome back for our series for the VM Lab 2020. This VM Lab 2020 will include, the previous video was domain controller. Upcoming will be file servers 1 and 2. I'm not going to go through the install, but this video will be the install of Windows 10. So we need a Windows 10 client to be able to connect to and test. So let's create. Typical. I will install Windows. Let's choose Windows 10. 1064. Next, and let's call this Windows 10 and then Lab 2020 so we know what it's for. Browse. Let's put it on our SSD again. Lab 2020. Let's create a folder. Windows 10. And next, use 60. And let's choose the single file. And we'll leave it as standard. Finish. Now what we need to do is install. So we need to select the ISO. Now, previous video, we talked about how to get to the evaluation center. So you're just going to go to the evaluation center and grab the Windows 10 ISO. So let's go to our downloads, and there it is there. Leave standard, click OK, and let's turn it on and start installing. So now I've got ahead and I started installing my file servers for the next few videos. So while we're catching up on Windows 10 here, okay, so Windows 10 comes up. Let's use the default. You could change this if you wish. Install. And as mentioned, these file servers are being set up for the next video. Okay, so now we choose license and choose custom because the very first install we're not upgrading. Click next. This is pretty much the same as the install showed for the original domain controller when we set up Windows Server 2019. So as you see, the file servers here are coming up. And let's go back to Windows 10. So Windows 10 is starting to install. It should take about 5 minutes. So now I've powered off my domain controller, so I'll power that on again. And let's check here. Let's check here. And so we're already at 25%, 26. It should count up pretty quick. So this is the evaluation center here. You could just grab anything you need from here. Products, Windows 10, and you can download it from here. Gives you a 90-day. The servers are 180-day. So if you need it, that's where you can get it from. The link for it will be in the description below. So let that run. I'm just going to pop it back into here and type in my passwords. You don't need to do anything with this. I'm just getting prepared for the next video. So this is just basically your installs. So if you want to get ahead in our next videos, you can just set yourself up 2 machines, name them file server. There's nothing with them yet. And now we're going back to Windows 10 here. Now each time you install an operating system, there you go. I'm going to click restart. go back here for a second. So each time you install an operating system, it's recommended that you install the VMware installer, the VMware tools. Just going to show you that. So we're going to set up these machines. So they get an automatic IP. We'll just leave that for now for the next video. Windows 10 should be booting up. So now what we want to do is right click, install VM tools. Now, if you remember the first video, this annoyance, just make it go away because we don't care about Windows Admin Center right now, and we don't care about this. So we should see VM tools come up automatically. As you see, give it a minute to auto start. Again, we'll do this, get rid of this. Let's see if the installer will kick in. And we need to double click on this and you'll see the auto installer kick in. Let's go here. There you go. And let's go back to the Windows 10. It's still booting. So if it doesn't start up, you can say open and go to setup 64. So we'll just let this install. See if the Windows 10 is up yet. Now remember, we're in the domain controller here, right? So what we want to do is this Windows 10, we want to join the domain. So we'll pop open the domain controller that we created from the last video. Now that's the administrator. We want to log in as the account we created. And you can reference back to the first video of this series if you can't recall what we did here. So while it's logging in, let's go to Windows 10. So here's the Windows 10. We're starting up. We want to stick with the US. You could choose whatever country. I'm going to go back here. So we're going to do the keyboard US. You could do Canadian if you want. I generally choose US because Canadian multi-standard, it gives you multilingual, sorry, it gives you French English keyboard. So if you have a French English keyboard, it'll work better that way. I usually just leave it on US for myself, but that's just your preference. And we'll skip the second keyboard. And while we're waiting, I'm going to go back to the domain controller just to show you. Active Directory users, computers. And the reason why I'm pulling this up is to show you the process, which you'll see. So in computers, there's nothing. Now let's go back to Windows 10. Let it install. Okay, so we want to domain join instead because we got enterprise, right? Okay, who's going to use this PC? Okay. And let's create a password for this machine. Now this is just a local account. It's not using any Microsoft. We can just skip. It won't let you. So what's your first pet's name? Let's use some names. Security question 2. His name is city I was born. Let's say Toronto. Question 3. Childhood name. Let's just stick with that. So this is what it does now when you log in. It wants more information. more access, say no, we don't care about device history. And digital assistance, let's decline for now. Now, depending on if you're not wanting any of the system setup for this thing to track you, I usually turn off everything for no telemetry and accept. And there we go. So we're in Windows 10 now. It's installed. It's up and running. First thing we want to do is we want to get the VMware tools installed. It gives us a minute. And like I said, we have our domain controller. We have no computers in our domain right now. So we want to add a client computer. So this is the server and this is the desktop. So once this logs in, we can get there. So let's go back and finish our VMware install. Finish. Let's reboot them. Finish this one. Give it a reboot. And those are ready for our next lab. So just to fill time while this takes time to initialize the first login. And many times you would sysprep an image and deploy it. But in this case here, let's go to Control Panel, Windows 10. I like Control Panel. Let's go here, small icons, and let's just show you that again. And see how no drivers, right? So let's install the drivers. Double click, there you go, we want to install. So while it's installing, let's give this machine a name. So change settings, and we want to call this, let's call this desktop 1. Oh, original. There, okay. So once it's installed, the VMware tools, let that install. Now we have a network connected. So what we want to do now is we want to change this, the network settings. So let's just confirm that we can use, let's say 23. 23 seems to be available. So let's go here to 23. Now, how I come up with 23 was 22 was our domain controller, and 23 is not taken. So let's call that 23. Let's do this. Now, preferred DNS server, remember our domain controller is 22. So we want to point this to 22 so it could join. And let's put our router. And that way it has access to the internet too. And let's click OK. And if everything works well, should be a slide out bar saying it's joined the network. Okay, so VMware Tools wants to reboot. We'll say no for now. So let's see if this works. Let's minimize this, get rid of this. Let's see if we could join the domain. Remember our last video, right? So we're going to go back here. Our domain is compuguy.info. So let's join. And it should find it, and once it finds it, it should come up and present with a login and password in order to join a domain. So let's see if this is working. No internet. So now the reason why that's not working is because we just installed the VM tools. So what we're going to have to do for now is cancel this. We have the name. We want to change that name. So I'm going to go back to control panel. And we don't want to join the domain right now. So what we want to do is just change the name of the machine to be desktop 1. And just click OK. Leave it in the work group. Close and restart. So now we've renamed it. We've installed the VM tools, which should allow us to be on the network and all the proper drivers. Rebooting. It's usually about 4 or 5 of those spins. Okay, log in. Okay. All right. So now we want to make sure we're on the network. Let's change adapter settings. And let's give this the proper IP. Let's turn off IPv6. IPv4, we have 23. So everything we typed in before is there. So let's click OK. We have no internet access, it says. So now what we want to do is go back to the control panel. Even if you spell wrong, it finds it. Let's go to System, change settings, change, and we want to join a domain. So the domain again is compuguy.info because we know the domain controller. That's the domain name right there. Let's go back to Windows 10. Now, if it finds it, it should pick it up right away. If it doesn't, what we need to do is we need to check the network adapter on the VM. So let's check out the network adapter. There it is. There's the reason why. So let's change this to bridge because remember we want to connect it to our NIC here. Our network adapter is on the physical hardware, so we're just sharing that adapter rather than having its own. So let's click on that. Click on this because it errored out. Let's give it a second. This should pick up. There you go. So now it picks up the network. It sees us on the network, and now we can join. And it should come up immediately with a login and password. Now, we knew the default. That we set it up before. So we do this password. Now, a lot of times, if you're running this in a production environment, you would set up an account that adds it for you. So you could set up an account that anybody can get the password to that gives it rights just to add computers. But in this case here, we use the administrator password. So now we'll click, let's go into the description. Right. Caps lock. Okay, so we're going to label this one 1, give it a reboot. Now let's go to the domain controller here and see what this did. Well, let's do a refresh. And there you go. Desktop 1 is now part of the domain. So that means now, if we set up a user here, new user, let's say CompUGuy guy 1. Okay, so now let's leave that password change and click next, finish. So CompUGuy guy 1 is just a user. We're not going to go in and make it a member of any other group. So now let's go to Windows 10 and let's change that user to CompUGuy guy 1 because we're going to join the domain, right? Now type the password it gave me, and then it says, hey, you have to change your password because I have that password set. Let's change the password. So let's go with yeah. Right. So let's go here. Type CompUGuy guy 1. Password must change. Okay. Okay. Now we click here. You submit. Password has been changed. And now it's letting us log in. I click cancel the first time. So again, we go through this. Welcome to Windows 10. Go back to the domain controller, and you see that CompUGuy is still there. It's no longer flagging for a password change. And we go to the computer is there. And there we go. So now we have access to that server. So let's make a search. So let's do a network path. Now what's it called? DC. Okay, let's go back here. Sorry, went too far. This one. What's the name of our server? 2019 DC. Let's go back here. So this is how you can actually get to that server. The default shares are netlogin and sysvol. So if you have access, you can go in here to get your netlogin scripts and sysvol data. And I can go there, but I probably would not be able to change anything because I'm logged on as a user. So that just shows that we now have network access to the domain controller. And there you go. So now we have a Windows 10 machine and we have a server 2019 machine. So that's all this video is to do now, is just to show you how to install Windows 10 inside of a domain. There you go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and please comment down below anything you want to see, anything you want to add, if there's anything else. And one thing I forgot is we should make sure our time zone has been changed. So we should right click on that, adjust date and time, change that to our time zone. And there you go. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next video. This was lab number 2 of multi labs. So this lab is 2020. That was session 1 for the domain controller, and this was session 2. The next one will be the file servers. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next video.